The story begins with Marcus, a bright, hopeful student stepping through the gates of Eastview Academy, a prestigious school known for its academic excellence and competitive nature. It's the beginning of his junior year, and the air is buzzing with the excitement of a new semester. Marcus has dreams, big dreams. He wants to become a doctor one day, and he knows this year is critical for his future. He's worked tirelessly, studying hard, helping his single mother around the house, and putting every bit of energy into being the best student he can be. His family may not have much, but they believe in the power of education, and Marcus wears that belief like armor. As Marcus walks through the crowded hallways, a sense of purpose fills him. This year, he's determined to push even harder, ace all his classes, and get closer to his goal of a medical career. His teachers have always held him to high standards, and he's determined not to let anyone down. But something feels different as he enters his first class of the day, history. The room is unusually quiet. There's a strange tension in the air, and Marcus can't quite shake the feeling that something's off. The students sit stiffly at their desks, and as he walks to his seat, some exchange nervous glances. The door swings open, and in walks the new history teacher, Ms. Anderson. She's tall, with a stern expression and sharp eyes that seem to pierce right through Marcus as she scans the room. There's no smile, no warmth, just an icy, penetrating gaze. Ms. Anderson wastes no time on introductions. Instead, she jumps right into laying down the rules, her tone as cold as her stare. She makes it clear that she has no tolerance for failure and expects her students to meet her high standards. Marcus tries to stay optimistic. He's faced tough teachers before. But as she speaks, he can't ignore the way her eyes linger on him, as if she's already marked him for failure. It's subtle, but it's there. Over the next few weeks, Marcus works tirelessly. He knows he has to prove himself, especially in Ms. Anderson's class. He stays up late, poring over his textbooks, making sure he understands every detail. But no matter how hard he tries, he can't shake the feeling that Ms. Anderson is watching him more closely than the others. It starts small. She rarely calls on him during class discussions. When she does, her tone is sharp, her words laced with an edge that makes his skin crawl. And then one day, during a group project presentation, she singles him out. Despite Marcus having done his part, she criticizes him for being passive while praising his groupmates. The sting of her words hits hard. He's confused. He knows he put in the work. But Ms. Anderson's cold smile tells him that, in her eyes, he's already failed. As the weeks drag on, Ms. Anderson's attitude becomes more overt. She dismisses his ideas in class, cutting him off whenever he tries to speak. She marks his assignments with harsh critiques that seem aimed at tearing him down rather than helping him improve. Marcus starts to doubt himself. He wonders what he's doing wrong, why she seems to have it out for him. But the real blow comes one afternoon when he stays after class to ask for advice. "Miss Anderson, can I speak with you for a moment?" he asks, trying to keep his voice steady. She looks up from her desk, her expression unreadable. "What is it, Marcus?" "I've noticed that my grades in this class aren't where I'd like them to be. I was hoping you could give me some advice on how to improve," he says carefully. Ms. Anderson stares at him, her eyes narrowing. "Do better?" she repeats, her tone dripping with sarcasm. "You need to learn your place, Marcus. This is a challenging course, and not everyone is cut out for it. Maybe you should focus on something more achievable." Her words sting, and for the first time, Marcus feels a lump form in his throat. He has always been one of the top students, so why is she treating him like this? As he walks out of the classroom, her words echo in his mind. He tries to shake it off, but a sense of dread settles in. This year isn't going to be what he thought. It's going to be a fight, and the fight gets harder. Miss Anderson starts making little comments in class, aimed at Marcus. They're subtle, but the intent is clear. She calls on other students, ignoring his raised hand, even when he knows the answers. When he asks questions, she gives vague responses, barely masking her disinterest. And when other students ask simpler questions, she takes the time to explain, often with a smile that she never shows Marcus. At first, Marcus tries to tell himself that it's just her style, that maybe he's overthinking it. But the pattern is undeniable. Miss Anderson doesn't just ignore him, she goes out of her way to undermine him. One day, during a class debate on civil rights, Marcus is explaining his point when she cuts him off. "That's a nice idea, Marcus," she says, her smile cold and mocking, "but I'm not sure you fully understand the complexities of the situation. Let's hear from someone else." The sting of her dismissal is sharper each time. His classmates exchange sympathetic looks, but no one speaks up. Marcus begins to feel more isolated. He still pushes himself, studying late into the night, but no matter what he does, his grades in Miss Anderson's class don't improve. She continues to mark him more harshly than his peers. He starts to wonder if he's really as capable as he thought. One afternoon, after receiving yet another ungraded essay, just a blank paper with no comments, Marcus can't hold back his frustration any longer. "Miss Anderson, why isn't my essay graded?" he asks, trying to keep the anger out of his voice. She shrugs, barely glancing up. "I must have misplaced it, or maybe it wasn't worth grading. Try harder next time." It feels like a slap. Marcus knows he put in hours on that essay, and to have it dismissed so casually, like it didn't even matter, leaves him feeling defeated. He starts questioning everything. Is it him? Is he really not good enough? But then he starts to notice the way she looks at him. The way her tone changes when she addresses him compared to other students. Slowly, a terrifying realization dawns. Miss Anderson isn't just a tough teacher. She's targeting him. And the only thing that seems different about him is his race. Marcus tries to brush it off, but the more he thinks about it, the more the pieces fall into place. Her coldness, her dismissiveness, the way she singles him out, he's seen it in history books, in the stories his mother told him. This is discrimination. But what can he do? Ms. Anderson is well respected, and her reputation as the principal's niece only complicates things. Who would believe him? As the semester goes on, Marcus feels the weight of the situation crushing down on him. His excitement for school has turned into dread. He loses sleep, his grades start slipping, and he finds it harder to focus. Every time he walks into that classroom, he feels like he's walking into a battle he can't win. Ms. Anderson seems to sense his fear. She seizes every opportunity to belittle him, making snide comments about his performance and mocking his contributions in front of the class. One day, during a presentation about the civil rights movement, a topic Marcus is passionate about, Ms. Anderson makes a comment that cuts deep. "Marcus, do you really think you understand the complexity of this issue, or are you just repeating what you've heard?" she asks, her tone laced with condescension. The classroom goes silent. Marcus feels the eyes of his classmates on him, but no one says anything. Miss Anderson smirks, turning her back to him as if the conversation is over. For a moment, Marcus feels a surge of anger. He wants to speak up, to defend himself, but the humiliation is overwhelming. He lowers his gaze, feeling smaller than he ever has. That night, he lies awake, replaying her words in his mind. It wasn't just an attack on his knowledge, it was personal. And the way she said it, the implication that someone like him couldn't understand, he knows what she meant. It's racism, plain and simple. But how does he fight this? She's protected by her position and her connections. He's just a student. Despite everything, Marcus refuses to give up. He pushes himself even harder, determined to prove her wrong. But no matter how much effort he puts in, Miss Anderson finds ways to undermine him. She loses his assignments, grades him unfairly, and cuts him off when he tries to speak. It's like she's determined to make him fail. One day, Marcus decides to speak to the guidance counselor, Mr. Thompson. He's nervous as he walks into the office, his hands trembling slightly. "Mr. Thompson, I need to talk to you about Miss Anderson," he begins. Mr. Thompson listens as Marcus explains what's been happening, but there's a flicker of hesitation in his eyes. "Marcus, Miss Anderson is known for being a tough teacher, but she's also very respected. Are you sure this isn't just her way of pushing you to do better?" he asks. Marcus's heart sinks. "This isn't about being tough. She's making racist comments, and she's singling me out." Mr. Thompson sighs, glancing down at the papers on his desk. "I understand you're upset, but Miss Anderson is the principal's niece. It's a complicated situation. My advice is to stay focused on your studies and not let her distract you." Marcus feels a wave of hopelessness wash over him. He came here looking for help, but instead he's being told to brush it off. The words, "principal's niece," echo in his mind, a reminder of the power she holds over him. As he leaves the office, he feels more alone than ever. In the days that follow, Miss Anderson's behavior escalates. She seems to sense that Marcus tried to report her, and she becomes even more hostile. She singles him out in front of the class, making degrading comments and using his race as a weapon. Marcus's classmates watch, some with sympathetic looks, but no one dares to speak up. It's as if they're afraid of becoming targets themselves. But then one day, something changes. During a heated class discussion, Miss Anderson makes another racially charged remark, and the room falls silent. Just as Marcus feels the familiar sting of humiliation, one of his classmates, Emma, speaks up. "Miss Anderson, that was out of line," she says, her voice steady but filled with anger. "The way you're treating Marcus is unfair, and it's racist." The entire class goes quiet, and Miss Anderson's eyes flash with irritation. "Excuse me, Emma. I'm simply critiquing his presentation." But Emma doesn't back down. "No, you're not. You've been targeting him for weeks, and it's not okay." Marcus feels a rush of gratitude and relief. For the first time, someone is standing up for him. The atmosphere in the room shifts. Other students start murmuring in agreement, nodding as they recall the incidents they've witnessed. Miss Anderson's face grows cold as she realizes the room is turning against her. She tries to regain control, but it's too late. The students have seen enough. In the days that follow, Marcus's classmates rally around him. Emma and a few others start documenting Miss Anderson's behavior, recording her comments and taking notes. They gather evidence, determined to prove that she's been discriminating against Marcus. It's a slow process, but more and more students begin to join their efforts. For the first time, Marcus doesn't feel alone. They work in secret, careful not to alert Miss Anderson. They know she has connections, and if she finds out, she might retaliate. But they're determined to hold her accountable. One day, they gather in the library to review the recordings. As they listen to Miss Anderson's voice dripping with condescension and malice, Marcus feels a mixture of anger and relief. The evidence is there, it's undeniable. "With this, we can take it to the school board," Emma says, her eyes burning with determination. The plan is set. They present the evidence to the school board, and soon, an official investigation is launched. The school buzzes with rumors as students from other classes share their stories of Miss Anderson's behavior. Marcus watches as the investigation unfolds, feeling a sense of vindication, but also a deep unease. As the investigation gains momentum, the school community finds itself divided. Some students and teachers are shocked to learn about Miss Anderson's behavior, while others refuse to believe it, insisting that she's simply a strict teacher who pushes her students hard. The hallways are filled with whispers, and Marcus feels the weight of all the attention, both positive and negative. His classmates rally around him, but there are those who avoid eye contact, who mutter under their breath, questioning his motives. One day, as Marcus walks to his locker, he hears a group of students whispering. "Do you think he's exaggerating? She's the principal's niece. Why would she risk her career? One says. Another student shrugs. Maybe he just didn't do well and needed someone to blame. The words cut deep, and for a moment, Marcus feels a pang of doubt. Maybe it would have been easier to stay quiet, to endure the silent insults and the unfair treatment. But then he sees Emma and a few other classmates approaching with smiles and supportive pats on his back, reminding him of the strength he's found in his friends. He stands taller, his resolve hardening. This is bigger than just him. It's about justice. The school board sets a date for the hearing, and tension fills the air as the day approaches. On the morning of the hearing, Marcus wakes up feeling a mixture of anxiety and determination. He gets dressed slowly, staring at himself in the mirror. His reflection looks back with a mix of fear and courage. He knows that everything he's worked for is on the line. If the board doesn't believe him, he might never escape the shadow of Ms. Anderson's influence. But if they do, if they see the truth, it could change everything. At the hearing, Marcus walks in with his mother by his side. She's a strong woman, her face set with determination, and Marcus feels a surge of pride and comfort knowing she's there. His friends, Emma, Daniel, and others are also present. They've all prepared to testify, to present the recordings and documents they've gathered. Marcus takes a deep breath as he sits down, feeling the weight of their support surrounding him. Ms. Anderson, meanwhile, sits at the other end of the room, her expression cold and composed. Her lawyer, confident and well-dressed, whispers in her ear as she watches Marcus with a look of indifference. The principal, Mr. Peterson, Ms. Anderson's uncle, sits in the center, his face unreadable. Marcus knows this will be the most difficult hurdle to overcome. How could he expect a fair judgment when Ms. Anderson is family to the person overseeing the hearing? As the proceedings begin, the school board members review the evidence Marcus and his classmates have brought. The room falls silent as recordings play, Ms. Anderson's voice clear and sharp, filled with condescending remarks and racial undertones. A murmur spreads through the audience. Some shake their heads in disbelief, while others whisper, their eyes widening as the evidence becomes undeniable. Emma takes the stand first, her voice strong as she recounts the numerous times she witnessed Miss Anderson targeting Marcus. She always ignored him when he raised his hand. When he did speak, she cut him off. And the way she looked at him, it was clear she had a problem with him. And it wasn't about his work. It was personal. Other students follow, each sharing similar stories. Daniel speaks of how Miss Anderson would praise students who gave mediocre answers while criticizing Marcus even when his responses were thoughtful and well-researched. It was like she was looking for reasons to humiliate him, he says. No matter what he did, she acted like it wasn't good enough. As the testimonies build up, Miss Anderson's lawyer tries to object, claiming that the students are misinterpreting her teaching style, that she is firm but fair with everyone. But the evidence is too strong to dismiss. The board members exchange glances, and Marcus feels a glimmer of hope. But then Miss Anderson takes the stand. She's calm, collected, and confident. She begins her defense by painting herself as a dedicated educator who only wants the best for her students. I hold my students to high standards, she says, her voice smooth and convincing. It's true I have been tough on Marcus, but it's because I see potential in him. Sometimes, pushing a student harder is necessary to help them grow. Her words hang in the air, and for a moment Marcus feels the ground slipping beneath him. Her calm demeanor, her way of twisting her actions to sound noble, it's convincing. The audience shifts uncomfortably, some nodding as if to say, she might have a point. Marcus clenches his fists, his heart pounding as he looks to the board members, hoping they see through her facade. But then, something unexpected happens. As Marcus's mother takes the stand, her voice filled with quiet strength. She speaks not just as a parent, but as someone who understands struggle. She talks about the sacrifices she and Marcus have made, the dreams they've built on the foundation of hard work and hope. Her eyes meet Marcus's as she says, "My son has never backed down from a challenge. He's faced every obstacle with courage. And I know when he says he's being treated unfairly, it's because he's telling the truth." The room falls silent, and Marcus feels tears prick at the corners of his eyes. His mother's words resonate, and for the first time he feels the full weight of what this fight means, not just for him, but for his family, for the future they've struggled to build. The board members seem moved, and one of them, an older woman with kind eyes, turns to Ms. Anderson. "You claim you were pushing him to reach his potential, but how do you explain the racially charged comments we heard in the recordings?" She asks, her tone pointed. Ms. Anderson's calm facade cracks for a moment. She stumbles over her words, trying to brush it off as a misunderstanding, but the doubt in the room is palpable. The board adjourns for a brief recess to discuss the evidence, leaving the room buzzing with tension. As Marcus sits outside the hearing room with his friends and his mother, his heart feels heavy. Emma squeezes his shoulder, whispering, "No matter what happens, we know the truth. We did everything we could." Marcus smiles, grateful, but anxiety gnaws at him. This decision could determine his future. When the board finally reconvenes, the atmosphere is thick with anticipation. Mr. Peterson, the principal, clears his throat. His eyes flicker between his niece and Marcus, and for a moment, Marcus fears the worst. But then, he speaks. "We have reviewed all the evidence, and it is clear that Miss Anderson's behavior towards Marcus was not only inappropriate but discriminatory," he announces, his voice strained. "As principal, I must ensure that all students are treated fairly. Miss Anderson will be suspended pending further review." A wave of relief crashes over Marcus. The room erupts in whispers, and Miss Anderson's face goes pale, her confident smile gone. Marcus feels a mix of victory and sadness. He knows this isn't over. Miss Anderson's suspension is just the beginning. There will be more hearings, more battles to fight, but for now, he's won a small victory, and it's enough. In the days that follow, the school is a whirlwind of rumors and emotions. Some students congratulate Marcus, while others avoid him, afraid of being associated with the controversy. Ms. Anderson's loyal supporters continue to murmur about him, but the majority begin to see the truth. The courage Marcus and his friends displayed is becoming a rallying point, a spark that ignites conversations about fairness, justice, and the importance of standing up for what's right. But just as things start to settle, Marcus receives an anonymous note slipped into his locker. It reads, "Watch your back. This isn't over." Chills run down his spine as he scans the hallway, but no one looks suspicious. His heart pounds as he realizes that this battle might not be as simple as he thought. Someone doesn't want him to succeed. Someone wants to intimidate him into silence. That night, he gathers with his closest friends, Emma, Daniel, Priya, and a few others who have supported him from the start. They sit in his living room, the mood tense as they discuss the note. "This is a threat," Emma says, her eyes filled with worry. "Someone wants to scare you into giving up." Marcus nods, feeling a mix of fear and determination. "But we've come too far to back down now. If they think this is going to silence me, they're wrong." They decide to stay vigilant, to watch each other's backs and keep documenting anything suspicious. They know they're making waves, and it's clear that some people want to keep things the way they are, want to protect Ms. Anderson and the power structures that have allowed her behavior to go unchecked. As the weeks go by, the anonymous threats continue. Notes appear in his backpack, locker, and even his mailbox at home. They become bolder, more menacing, and Marcus's friends grow increasingly worried. Priya suggests they go to the police, but Marcus hesitates. What if it makes things worse? He wonders. What if it puts my family in danger? But then, one afternoon, the situation escalates. Marcus's mother receives a phone call from an unknown number. The voice on the other end tells her that if Marcus doesn't stop pursuing the case, they'll make sure his chances of getting into any college disappear. His mother's face pales as she relays the message to Marcus. "This isn't just about the school anymore, Marcus," she says, her voice filled with fear and anger. "Someone is trying to destroy your future." The threat hangs heavy in the air, and for the first time, Marcus feels the weight of what he's up against. It's not just about a teacher and a school anymore. It's about a system that protects its own at the expense of students like him. He knows he has a choice to make. Back down to protect his family, or keep fighting and risk everything. As he sits with his friends that night, he looks around at their faces, each one filled with concern, but also determination. They've stood by him through everything, and he knows they'll continue to fight. But he can't ignore the fear in their eyes. The stakes have become higher than any of them anticipated. Emma speaks up, her voice steady but emotional. "Marcus, no matter what you decide, we're with you. But you need to know, we're not just fighting for you anymore. We're fighting for every student who's been mistreated and afraid to speak up." Marcus's heart swells with gratitude and resolve. He knows what he has to do. The threats, the fear, they only strengthen his resolve. "We're going to keep fighting," he says, his voice filled with determination, "no matter what." And so, the battle continues. But this time, Marcus knows he's not alone. And that makes all the difference. The threats continue to mount, and Marcus becomes hyper-aware of his surroundings. Every time he walks into school, his eyes scan the hallways, searching for anything suspicious. But life goes on, and he refuses to let fear control him. His friends stand by him, tighter than ever, their group a solid unit against the storm brewing around them. One day, as Marcus walks to his history class, now taught by a temporary substitute after Miss Anderson's suspension, he notices an unfamiliar figure lingering by the door. The person wears a hoodie pulled low, obscuring their face. Marcus's instincts scream at him to stay cautious, but he brushes off the feeling, telling himself it's probably nothing. But as he passes, the person mutters something under their breath. It's just a whisper, but Marcus catches the words, "Better watch out." His heart races. Marcus hurries into the classroom, his hands trembling as he grips his notebook. He tries to focus on the lecture, but his mind keeps replaying the moment. Who was that person? Why do they want to intimidate him? The fear is growing, but with it comes a resolve. He won't let them break him. That afternoon, he tells his friends about the encounter. Daniel's face darkens, and Priya's eyes widen with concern. Emma, however, has a different reaction, one of her classic eye rolls. "If they're hiding their face and muttering threats, they're probably more scared of you than you are of them," she says, crossing her arms. "They know you're winning." The group laughs, the tension breaking for a moment. Emma's sense of humor and bravery always seemed to lift their spirits, even in the darkest of times. But beneath the laughter, they all know the truth. Things are getting serious, and they have to be prepared for anything. A week later, the group decides to meet at the school library after hours to go through the latest evidence they've gathered. As they pore over documents and listen to new recordings, they realize that the situation with Ms. Anderson runs deeper than they thought. The recordings reveal conversations where Ms. Anderson hints at her influence within the school, suggesting that certain grades and opportunities can be adjusted for those who follow her lead. The group exchanges worried glances. Marcus feels a chill run down his spine. This isn't just about him anymore. Ms. Anderson's manipulation could be affecting dozens of students. "We have to bring this to the board," Priya says, her voice firm. This is more than enough to prove that she's been abusing her power. But just as they finalize their plan, the lights in the library flicker. The room plunges into darkness, and the only sound is the soft hum of the air conditioner. Emma reaches for her phone, turning on the flashlight. "Okay, this is creepy," she whispers, half joking, but there's a hint of real fear in her eyes. Daniel and Marcus stand up, glancing around the dim room. "It's probably just a power outage," Marcus says. trying to sound calm, but his voice betrays a hint of nervousness. He's seen too many coincidences lately, and each one feels like a warning. Suddenly, there's a loud crash from the hallway. The group jumps, their eyes darting toward the door. For a moment, no one moves. Then, with a nod from Marcus, they move as a unit, inching their way toward the noise. They peek around the corner, and there, scattered across the floor, are dozens of library books, torn and tossed aside like a whirlwind had ripped through the shelves. Emma shakes her head. "It's like someone wants to scare us off," she mutters. Marcus nods, "Or warn us to stop digging." Despite the eerie encounter, they press on. The next day, they submit the new evidence to the school board, confident that this will finally bring the truth to light. Marcus feels a sense of pride and relief. It's not just about him anymore. It's about standing up for all the students who've been affected by Miss Anderson's abuse of power. But then, the unexpected happens. As Marcus walks through the crowded hallway, his phone buzzes. It's an email from the school administration. His eyes widen as he reads, "Urgent, meeting required, allegations against Marcus Williams." His heart drops. He rushes to the principal's office, his stomach in knots. When he arrives, he finds Mr. Peterson waiting for him, his expression stern and serious. "Marcus, we've received some troubling information," he says, folding his hands on his desk. "There have been allegations that you've been disrupting the school environment, and that you're responsible for the recent disturbances." Marcus feels the blood drain from his face. "What? That's not true," he exclaims. "Someone is trying to frame me because they know we're getting close to exposing the truth." Mr. Peterson's eyes narrow. "You've been stirring up a lot of attention lately, Marcus, and with your recent complaints against my niece, there are those who believe you may have other motives." Marcus's hands clench into fists. "You can't be serious. We've been gathering evidence to show how she's been manipulating students and using her influence. This is just a way to shut me up." Mr. Peterson's expression softens, just for a moment. "I understand your frustration, but you need to realize that when you take on people with power, there are consequences." The words hang in the air like a threat. Marcus realizes that this isn't just about Miss Anderson anymore. It's about an entire system designed to protect its own, and they're using every tactic to silence him. When he leaves the office, he feels a weight heavier than ever before. But as he steps out into the hallway, his friends are there, waiting. Emma looks at him, her eyes filled with determination. "We knew they'd try something like this," she says, crossing her arms defiantly. "But they're not going to win." Daniel nods, holding up his phone. "We recorded everything that was said in there. They can't twist the truth when we have proof." Priya smiles softly, her voice gentle but firm. "We stand together, Marcus, no matter what." The words fill Marcus with a renewed sense of strength. This fight isn't just his anymore. It belongs to all of them, and for the first time, he feels the power that comes from standing united. But the battle intensifies. The school administration begins spreading rumors about Marcus, planting seeds of doubt among the student body. Some students start to turn against him, whispering as he walks by. He hears snippets of conversations, people accusing him of seeking attention, others claiming he's just trying to cause trouble. One afternoon, while Marcus is sitting alone in the cafeteria, a group of students approaches. Their leader, a senior named Josh, who's known for being influential among his peers, glares down at Marcus. "What's your game, huh? You think you're some kind of hero?" Josh sneers. "Why don't you just let it go and stop trying to make everyone look bad?" Marcus looks up, feeling the pressure of their stares. But instead of backing down, he stands. "I'm not here to make anyone look bad," he says, his voice steady. "I'm fighting for what's right. If you think standing up against injustice is wrong, then maybe you're on the wrong side of history. The cafeteria goes silent. For a moment, no one speaks. Then, to Marcus's surprise, a few students nod in agreement. He's right. A voice calls out from the back. We all know something's wrong, we just didn't know what to do about it. Josh's expression falters, but he shrugs it off, muttering something under his breath as he walks away. Marcus watches him go, feeling a small victory. Even though not everyone is on his side, he knows that some are beginning to see the truth. As the weeks pass, the atmosphere in the school shifts. The investigation into Miss Anderson's behavior intensifies, and Marcus and his friends find more students willing to speak out. Slowly but surely, they begin to gather enough testimonies to build a solid case. But the administration isn't backing down. They're launching counterclaims, trying to discredit Marcus and paint him as a troublemaker. One evening, as Marcus sits at his kitchen table, surrounded by papers and recordings, he feels the weight of it all. His mother walks in, placing a hand on his shoulder. "I'm so proud of you," she says, her voice filled with emotion. "No matter what happens, you're standing up for what's right, and that's something no one can take away from you." Marcus looks up, the warmth of her words filling his chest. "Thanks, Mom. Sometimes it feels like too much, like they'll win, no matter what we do." She squeezes his shoulder gently. "They might have power, but they don't have the truth, and the truth always finds a way." With her encouragement, Marcus feels a surge of determination. This is his fight, and he's not backing down. And so, the story continues to unfold, each day bringing new challenges, new threats, and new revelations. But Marcus knows one thing for sure. This isn't just about a single teacher anymore. It's about a system built on fear and control, and he's ready to tear it down, one truth at a time. The pressure intensifies. Marcus's days are filled with a constant cycle of defending himself against false accusations, gathering more evidence, and trying to maintain his focus on his schoolwork. The administration continues its efforts to discredit him, and even some teachers, fearful for their own positions, begin to subtly distance themselves. But through it all, Marcus holds his head high, the support of his friends and his mother keeping his spirit strong. One morning, Marcus and his friends meet in the library before classes start. They're huddled around their usual table, and the atmosphere is thick with tension. Emma looks up from her laptop, her face serious. "I've been digging into some old school records, and it turns out that Miss Anderson isn't the first teacher to have complaints filed against them." Priya raises an eyebrow. "What do you mean?" Emma taps a few keys and pulls up a document. "I found a record from a few years ago. Another student filed a complaint about a different teacher for similar behavior. But guess what? That complaint was quietly dropped. No investigation, no follow-up. It's like it just disappeared." Marcus feels a chill. So this isn't new, it's been going on for a while. Daniel leans back in his chair, rubbing his chin thoughtfully. If they covered up complaints before, it means the administration has a pattern of protecting their own. We need to find more cases like this. The group nods in agreement. They realize now that they aren't just fighting against one teacher. They're up against a deeply ingrained system of favoritism and corruption. It's daunting, but they're more determined than ever to expose the truth. As they start digging deeper, they stumble upon more disturbing details. Priya manages to track down one of the former students who filed the complaint years ago. Someone who transferred schools after their complaint was ignored. The student, Alex, is hesitant to talk at first, but eventually, after hearing Marcus's story, they agree to meet. The group gathers at a small cafe, waiting anxiously for Alex to arrive. When they do, Marcus sees a flicker of recognition in their eyes. I remember what it felt like, Alex says quietly, stirring their coffee. No one believed me. They told me I was overreacting, that it was just the teacher's style. But I knew it wasn't right. It was personal. Hearing Alex's story sends a wave of empathy and anger through Marcus. They describe a similar pattern of discrimination, intimidation, and silence from the administration. They tried to push me out, and when I wouldn't stay quiet, they made my life so miserable that transferring was the only option. Marcus's hands grip his cup tightly. We can't let them keep doing this. We have to stop it here. Alex nods, their expression resolute. I'll help you. If there's anything I can do to bring this to light, I'm in. With Alex's support, the group's efforts start gaining momentum. They compile the stories of other students, each account painting a picture of a school culture where certain students are silenced and others are pushed out when they don't fit the mold. The evidence mounts, and soon they have enough to bring to the local media. Emma makes the call, and within days, a local journalist reaches out to Marcus. I've heard about your story, and I believe it's one that needs to be told. The journalist says, but you have to understand, going public means taking on a lot of risk. Are you prepared for that? Marcus hesitates, feeling the weight of the decision. He looks at his friends, all of whom nod their support. We're ready, he says, his voice steady. People need to know what's happening. A few days later, the story breaks. The headline reads, Students speak out against corruption at Eastview Academy. The article details Marcus's journey, the evidence they've gathered, and the testimonies of other students who have experienced similar mistreatment. The response is immediate. Parents start calling the school, demanding answers. The local news picks up the story, and suddenly, Marcus finds himself at the center of a media storm. At first, it feels like a victory. The public outcry is overwhelming, and Marcus feels a sense of validation. But then, the backlash begins. Anonymous threats flood his social media accounts, and some of the messages are more personal than ever before. You think you're a hero, but you're just ruining people's lives, one message reads. You'll pay for this. Marcus's mother finds one of the messages and confronts him. Marcus, I'm proud of you, but I'm also scared, she admits, her voice tight with worry. They're getting desperate, and desperate people do dangerous things. Marcus meets her eyes, trying to stay strong for her. I know, Mom, but I can't back down now. Too many people are counting on us. That night, Marcus has trouble sleeping. Every noise outside his window makes him jump. Every shadow feels like a threat. But he reminds himself of why he's fighting. For the students like him who don't have a voice, for his friends who have stood by him, and for his own sense of justice. The next day at school, Marcus finds himself in the principal's office again, this time with his mother by his side. Mr. Peterson's expression is stern, but there's a hint of desperation in his eyes. Marcus, the media attention is causing chaos. Parents are furious, the school's reputation is at stake, and we need to come to an agreement. Marcus feels his heart race. An agreement? Mr. Peterson sighs. If you and your friends withdraw your claims, we can put this whole thing behind us. I'll ensure your grades are restored, and you'll receive a recommendation for college. Think about your future. Marcus stares at him, disbelief turning into anger. You want me to stay silent? Again? To let Miss Anderson and others like her continue hurting students while you sweep it all under the rug? His mother, sitting beside him, shakes her head. My son will not be silenced, she says firmly. He's telling the truth, and we're standing by it. The principal's expression hardens. Then I'm afraid you leave me no choice. If you continue down this path, we will consider expelling you for disrupting the school environment. The threat hangs in the air, and Marcus feels the sting of fear. Expulsion would ruin everything he's worked for. But as he looks at his mother and remembers his friend's unwavering support, he feels a surge of defiance. Do what you have to, he says, but we won't back down. Outside the office, Marcus feels the weight of the decision pressing on him, but he also feels a strange sense of freedom. He's crossed a line, one that can't be uncrossed, and he knows there's no turning back. The school retaliates quickly. False accusations start piling up, and Marcus's behavior is monitored closely. He's called in for questioning over minor incidents, and his teachers are pressured into giving him lower grades. His friends face similar scrutiny, and some of their parents receive calls warning them that their children's futures could be jeopardized if they continue their disruptive behavior. Despite the pressure, Marcus and his friends remain undeterred. One day, while they're studying in the library, Marcus receives a call from Alex. "I've got something," Alex says, excitement in their voice. "I found a former teacher who used to work here. They left because they knew what was going on, but didn't feel safe speaking up until now. They want to help." Marcus feels a rush of hope. That's huge. If we can get a teacher to back us up, it could change everything. They arrange a meeting with the former teacher, Miss Reynolds, at a cafe downtown. She's nervous, glancing over her shoulder as she speaks, but her voice is steady. "I saw what was happening years ago," she admits. "There were complaints against Ms. Anderson and others, but they were covered up. The principal always protected his staff, and those who tried to speak out were pushed out." She hands Marcus a folder filled with documents. "These are some of the records I managed to keep. They show a pattern. Complaints filed, evidence ignored, it's all there." Marcus takes the folder, his hands trembling. "Thank you," he says, feeling the weight of her trust. "This could be the proof we need." With the new evidence, the group decides to go back to the media. This time, they have enough to not only prove the corruption, but also show the administration's pattern of silencing complaints. The journalist they previously worked with is excited about the new angle. "This is big," they say. "It's no longer just one student's word against a teacher's. It's a pattern of systemic abuse." The story makes headlines again, and this time, the reaction is even more intense. The community rallies behind Marcus and his friends. Parents organize protests outside the school, demanding accountability and transparency. The pressure on the administration becomes unbearable. Mr. Peterson, facing mounting scrutiny, calls a school-wide assembly. The students fill the gym, whispering anxiously as they wait for the principal to speak. Marcus and his friends sit together, their eyes fixed on the stage. Mr. Peterson takes the microphone, his face pale. "It has come to our attention that there have been serious allegations made against the administration and some members of our staff. We want to assure you that we are conducting a thorough investigation." The students murmur, some nodding in agreement, others looking skeptical. Marcus feels a surge of emotion. He knows they're finally being heard. But just as Mr. Peterson begins to wrap up his speech, Marcus stands, raising his hand. The room falls silent as he speaks. "Mr. Peterson, you say there's an investigation, but how can we trust it when you've been protecting these people for years?" The gym fills with whispers and murmurs of agreement. Mr. Peterson's face tightens. "Marcus, this is not the time." "No," Marcus interrupts, his voice strong. "This is exactly the time. You've been silencing students for too long. We won't be silent anymore." His friends stand with him, and then, one by one, other students rise too. It starts as a trickle and then becomes a wave. The students chant in unison, their voices echoing off the walls. "We want justice. We want change." Mr. Peterson looks out at the sea of students, his face a mask of disbelief. For the first time, the power balance has shifted. The students, united and strong, stand together. Marcus feels the swell of pride in his chest. This is what they've been fighting for. A chance to be heard. A chance to change the system. As the protest continues, Marcus knows that this is just the beginning. The fight is far from over, but they've made their voices loud enough that no one can ignore them. And with each chant, with each step forward, he feels the hope of a brighter future. A future where students like him no longer have to fight alone. The energy in the gymnasium is electric. The students' chant grows louder, filling the space with a roar of unity and defiance. Marcus feels his heart race, not with fear, but with exhilaration. For the first time, they aren't just a small group of voices, they're a movement. The power that had once rested solely in the hands of the administration now wavers, balanced by the collective force of the student body. Mr. Peterson, seeing the unity before him, hesitates. His eyes scan the crowd of students standing shoulder to shoulder, and for a moment, It looks like he's reconsidering his stance. But then, in a move that feels more desperate than decisive, he raises his hand, signaling for the microphone to be shut off. The gym speakers crackle and go silent, and the lights dim, casting the room into a shadowy, eerie calm. Marcus can feel the tension thickening, but the silence only seems to fuel the students' resolve. Some of them pull out their phones, recording everything, while others shout words of encouragement. Emma, standing beside Marcus, nudges him with a grin. Well, looks like they can't silence us anymore. A few teachers and security guards move toward the students, urging them to sit down. But the students remain steadfast, refusing to be intimidated. Marcus steps forward, lifting his voice. They want us to sit down and stay quiet, but we're here for a reason. We deserve the truth, and we won't stop until we get it. The students cheer, and for a moment, Marcus feels like they might actually win this battle right then and there. But then, a voice booms from the back of the gym. Everyone, enough. The crowd parts as Miss Anderson herself walks in, her face a mask of fury and disdain. She strides to the center of the room, her eyes fixed on Marcus. The air feels like it's been sucked out of the room. Marcus's heart pounds as she approaches, flanked by a few administrative staff. You think you can challenge the system? She says, her voice cold, carrying a calculated calm. This little show might seem impressive, but it's not going to change anything. For a moment, the students waver. Ms. Anderson has always had a way of commanding attention, of making people question their own resolve. But Marcus feels his anger bubbling up. He knows what she's trying to do, break their unity, make them doubt themselves. He clenches his fists, his eyes locked on hers. We've exposed the truth, Miss Anderson. You can't hide behind your connections anymore. Miss Anderson's eyes flash, but she doesn't back down. Connections? She scoffs. You think you have any idea how things work? You're just a child and you've stirred up chaos for no reason. There's no proof, no case, just accusations from a group of troublemakers. Marcus feels the anger boiling over. No proof, he echoes. Then why are you so desperate to shut us up? As the tension escalates, Emma pulls out her phone, playing a recording loud enough for everyone to hear. It's Miss Anderson's voice from weeks before, dripping with condescension as she targets Marcus during class. People like you often don't understand the material, she sneers in the recording. You need to know your place. The room falls silent as the recording echoes through the gym. For the first time, Miss Anderson's composed facade cracks. Her eyes dart nervously as whispers fill the air. Some students look shocked, others angry. The evidence is undeniable now. No one can ignore the truth. Mr. Peterson looks torn, his eyes shifting between his niece and the sea of students staring at him. Miss Anderson, he says, his voice strained, we need to address these allegations properly. You know as well as I do that this isn't going away. She whirls on him, her composure shattering. You're really going to take their side? She snaps, her voice rising. After everything I've done for this school? The students watch in stunned silence as the tension between them escalates. Marcus feels a swell of hope. Maybe, just maybe, the administration is starting to realize they can't sweep this under the rug. But then, in a move that catches everyone off guard, Miss Anderson grabs the microphone from Mr. Peterson's hand. Fine, she shouts, her voice echoing. You want the truth? You can't handle it. This school has been protecting people like me for years. You think your little protest is going to change that? The room erupts. Students shout in anger, some standing on their seats. The revelation is more explosive than anyone expected, and it's clear that Ms. Anderson, in her anger, has let slip more than she intended. She looks around, suddenly realizing the magnitude of her mistake. Marcus feels a surge of triumph. You just admitted it. You've been using your connections, manipulating the system and silencing students. And now everyone knows. Miss Anderson's face goes pale, but before she can respond, the doors burst open again. This time, it's not another teacher or administrator. It's the journalist who had broken the original story, followed by a camera crew. They catch the moment perfectly, capturing Miss Anderson's stunned expression and the chanting students. The journalist's eyes light up as they approach Marcus. Marcus, it looks like the truth is finally coming out. What do you have to say? She asks, shoving a microphone his way. Marcus takes a deep breath, steadying himself. He knows this is his moment, the one chance to make his voice, and the voices of his fellow students, heard loud and clear. We've been silenced for too long. But today, we're standing together. This isn't just about one teacher. It's about changing a broken system that protects the powerful and ignores the students it's supposed to serve. We won't stop until justice is served, and until this school is a place where every student can feel safe. The gym explodes in applause, and the camera crew captures every moment. Marcus feels a swell of pride, knowing that the story is now bigger than any of them. Ms. Anderson and the administration can no longer control the narrative. The truth is out, and the world is watching. As the protest continues, Mr. Peterson tries to regain control, but it's too late. The school board, now fully aware of the public attention, intervenes, announcing an emergency investigation. They promise to review all the evidence and to hold a public forum where students and parents can voice their concerns. In the days that follow, the momentum of the movement grows. News outlets pick up the story, and it spreads beyond the local community. Parents, activists, and former students start coming forward, each sharing their own stories of discrimination and silence. The once quiet halls of Eastview Academy are now filled with a newfound energy, a sense of hope that change is finally possible. But not everyone is pleased. The backlash intensifies as Marcus receives more threatening messages, this time not just online but in person. One day, as he's leaving school, a group of students he doesn't recognize surround him. They shove him against a locker, their faces twisted with anger. "You think you're a hero? Huh? All you're doing is bringing trouble." Emma and Daniel arrive just in time, pulling Marcus away. "Leave him alone," Emma shouts, her eyes blazing with fury. The group backs off, muttering threats as they walk away. "Are you okay?" Priya asks, her voice filled with concern as she helps Marcus to his feet. "Yeah?" he says, though his voice is shaky. "I'm fine. We knew this wouldn't be easy." As they walk home together, Marcus feels a mix of fear and resolve. He knows the closer they get to uncovering the truth, the more desperate the opposition will become. But with every attack, he feels his resolve strengthen. This is bigger than any one person's fear. It's about creating a better future for everyone. The next school board meeting is packed. The auditorium is filled with students, parents, journalists, and community members, all eager to hear what will happen next. Marcus, his mother, and his friends sit near the front, their eyes fixed on the stage where the board members sit. Mr. Peterson is there too, but his face is drawn, and he looks more anxious than ever. The board president, a stern-looking woman named Mrs. Cole, begins the proceedings. "Thank you all for coming. We are here today to address the serious allegations raised by the students of Eastview Academy. We want to assure you that we take these matters very seriously." Miss Anderson sits at a table to the side, her expression unreadable. Marcus feels a knot tighten in his stomach as he watches her, knowing how much power she still holds. The board begins reviewing the evidence presented by Marcus and his friends, including the testimonies of other students, the recordings, and the documents provided by Ms. Reynolds, the former teacher. As the evidence piles up, the atmosphere in the room shifts. Murmurs ripple through the audience, and the board members exchange tense glances. Finally, Mrs. Cole turns to Miss Anderson. "Miss Anderson, based on the evidence provided, it is clear that there has been a pattern of discriminatory behavior. Do you have anything to say for yourself?" Miss Anderson's face remains stoic, but there's a flicker of fear in her eyes. She stands, her voice cold. "This is a witch hunt. These students have twisted my words, fabricated evidence, and manipulated the narrative for their own gain. I've done nothing but uphold the school's standards." But as she speaks, the crowd begins to react. Some boo, others shake their heads. Marcus stands, raising his hand. "This isn't about fabricating anything, Ms. Anderson. The evidence is right here, and we've all seen it." Mrs. Cole raises a hand to silence the room. "Enough. We will now make our decision." The tension is unbearable as the board members confer. After a few minutes, Mrs. Cole stands again, addressing the crowd. "After reviewing all the evidence, we find that Miss Anderson's conduct was indeed inappropriate and discriminatory. Effective immediately, she will be terminated from her position." The room erupts in applause and cheers. Marcus's friends hug him, their faces beaming with relief and pride. He looks up at his mother, who nods with tears in her eyes. They've done it, after all the battles, the fear, and the uncertainty. They've finally achieved justice. But Marcus knows this is just one victory. As the noise of the celebration fills the room, he stands and addresses the crowd. This is just the beginning. We need to make sure this never happens again. We need a school where everyone feels safe, where no one is afraid to speak up. The crowd's applause grows louder, and Marcus feels a swell of hope. They've won this battle, but the war for a fair and just school is far from over. With his friends and the entire community behind him, he knows they're ready to take the fight wherever it needs to go, because when people stand together, no one can silence their voices. The echoes of the applause from the school board meeting carry through the next few days, and Marcus becomes a symbol of change, not just for Eastview Academy, but for the entire community. His story spreads beyond the school's walls. Local news stations pick it up, and soon he's receiving messages of support from people he's never met. His social media explodes with messages of encouragement, solidarity, and even similar stories from students across the country. But with this newfound spotlight comes a different kind of pressure. Suddenly, everyone expects something from Marcus: guidance, leadership, even more action. The weight of those expectations bears down on him, and he starts to feel the pressure mounting. One evening, after an exhausting day of interviews and meetings with concerned parents and students, Marcus sits alone in his room, the glow of his laptop illuminating the dozens of unread messages. He closes his eyes, feeling overwhelmed. What if I'm not enough? He whispers to himself. He's pushed so hard, but now the stakes feel higher than ever. The responsibility to keep this movement alive, to push for real systemic change, it feels too big for just one person. As he sits there, his phone buzzes. It's a message from Emma. "Hey, I know everything's been crazy, but remember, you're not alone in this. We're all in it together." The message brings a small smile to Marcus's face. It's a reminder that he doesn't have to carry the burden by himself. His friends, his mother, the students, they're all part of this fight. And with that thought, he feels a flicker of hope reignite. The next day, Marcus and his friends meet in the library, their usual spot. The mood is lighter than it has been in weeks. There's a sense of victory, but also the realization that they've only just begun. Daniel lays out a stack of papers, and Emma pulls out her laptop, grinning. "Okay, so here's the plan for Phase 2, she announces, her eyes sparkling with excitement. Marcus raises an eyebrow. "Phase 2? Priya nods. "If we want to make real changes, we need to push for more than just getting rid of one teacher. We need policy changes, anti-discrimination training for staff, and a student council with real power." Marcus's eyes widen. "That sounds huge. I mean, I don't even know where we'd start." Emma laughs, nudging him playfully. "That's why you have us. We've already started drafting a petition and reaching out to community leaders." As they go over their plans, Marcus feels his anxiety melt away. His friends have been working tirelessly, not just for him, but for every student who's felt unheard or mistreated. He realizes that the movement isn't about him. It's about all of them working together to create something better. The petition quickly gains traction. Within days, hundreds of students, parents, and community members sign it, all supporting the call for reforms at Eastview Academy. The momentum is incredible, but the administration, still reeling from Ms. Anderson's termination, isn't ready to give in so easily. Mr. Peterson, visibly strained from the fallout, calls another meeting with Marcus and his friends. When they walk into his office, the tension is palpable. Mr. Peterson's desk is covered in documents, and he looks older, warier than before. "I understand that you and your friends are leading this campaign for change," he begins, his voice tight. "But you need to understand that the school board and I are under immense pressure. The community is demanding action, but if we push too hard, we risk losing our funding. This school could shut down." Marcus feels a pang of sympathy. Despite everything, he knows Mr. Peterson is caught in the middle, trying to balance the demands of students with the politics of running a school. But his resolve remains firm. "We're not trying to tear the school down," Marcus says. "We just want to make it better. This isn't about blaming you or anyone else. It's about making sure the students feel safe and heard." Mr. Peterson rubs his temples, sighing. "And if we agree to these changes, what guarantee do we have that this will end the chaos?" Emma steps forward, her gaze unyielding. We'll work with you. We're not here to be your enemies. We want to build something new together, a partnership between the administration and the students." Mr. Peterson's eyes soften, and for a moment it feels like he's considering it. "I'll take it to the board, but know that these things take time." As they leave the office, Marcus feels a mix of hope and apprehension. The administration's hesitation means their battle isn't over, but it's a start, and if they can find common ground, there's a chance they can make the changes they've been fighting for. The weeks that follow are filled with meetings, workshops, and countless hours of negotiation. The students, now fully united, work with their teachers and even bring in experts on education reform. Marcus and his friends find themselves becoming lead not just for their school, but for other local schools facing similar issues. Their movement becomes a blueprint for other communities, and their voices are amplified through social media and local news. One evening, as Marcus returns home from a particularly long meeting, he finds his mother waiting for him in the kitchen. She's holding a letter with a serious expression. "It's from the district office," she says, handing it to him. Marcus's hands tremble slightly as he opens the letter. His eyes scan the words, and then a look of shock crosses his face. "They're offering me a scholarship," he says, almost in disbelief. "For everything we've done here, they want to support my education." His mother smiles, her eyes glistening with pride. "You've worked so hard, Marcus. This is just the beginning for you." But even as Marcus feels a sense of pride, he can't shake the feeling that there's still more to be done. He looks at his mother, determination lighting up his eyes. "I'm grateful for this opportunity, but I'm not leaving until we finish what we started." The next day, Marcus gathers his friends and tells them the news. "I got a scholarship," he announces, and the group cheers, clapping him on the back. But then he raises a hand, signaling for silence. "But I'm not taking it, at least not yet. Not until we make sure this school changes for good." His friends fall silent, then nod in unison. Emma smiles. "That's the Marcus we know. We're with you, all the way." In the months that follow, the group's efforts finally bear fruit. The school board, pressured by the overwhelming support from the community, approves a series of reforms, including the establishment of a student-led council that will work directly with the administration. New training programs for teachers are implemented, focusing on anti-discrimination and how to create a more inclusive environment for students. The day the reforms are announced, the entire school gathers for an assembly. Marcus stands on stage, looking out at the sea of faces. Students, teachers, parents, and even members of the community who have supported them from the beginning. He feels a swell of emotion, knowing how far they've come. He steps up to the microphone, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "This isn't just a victory for me or for the students who stood with me. It's a victory for every person who's ever felt unheard, unseen, or pushed aside. We've proven that when we come together, we can make real change." The audience erupts into applause, and as Marcus looks out at his friends and the community, he feels a sense of fulfillment that's deeper than any award or recognition could bring. It's the knowledge that they didn't just change a school, they changed lives. As the applause dies down, Marcus smiles, and for the first time in months, he feels the weight on his shoulders lift. He knows that there will always be challenges, that there will always be battles to fight, but he also knows that with his friends and his community by his side, they can overcome anything. In the days that follow, the school begins its transformation. Students who once felt marginalized now feel empowered to speak up. Teachers who were skeptical at first start engaging with their students in new, meaningful ways. The new student council, led by Marcus and his friends, works tirelessly to ensure that every voice is heard. One afternoon, as Marcus walks through the hallways, he sees a group of younger students gathered around a poster that reads, "Your voice matters." He watches as they chat excitedly, pointing to the different initiatives that are now in place because of the movement he and his friends started. He feels a swell of pride, knowing that their fight wasn't just for them, it was for everyone who would come after. Just as he's about to turn the corner, he spots Alex, the former student who had initially shared their story. They smile, waving him over. "Look at this place," Alex says, their voice filled with wonder. "You really did it." Marcus shakes his head. "We all did it." Alex grins, giving him a pat on the back. "Yeah, we did. And you know, it's just the beginning." Marcus nods, feeling the truth of those words resonate deep within him. The journey they started had been filled with obstacles, fear, and uncertainty. But through it all, they had discovered the power of unity, the strength of friendship, and the impact of standing up for what was right. As he walks out of the school, the sun sets in a brilliant blaze of colors, a reminder that even after the darkest moments, there's always light. Marcus smiles, feeling the warmth of that light, and knowing that no matter what challenges lie ahead, he and his friends are ready to face them. As the weeks pass, the changes at Eastview Academy slowly start to take root. The new student council holds its first official meeting, and the atmosphere is charged with excitement. Students from different grades come together, sharing their ideas for improving the school environment. There's laughter, lively debate, and a sense of possibility that hadn't existed before. Marcus looks around the room, feeling a swell of pride. It's no longer just about him and his friends. It's about the whole school working together as a community. However, with these changes come new challenges. Not everyone is happy about the reforms, especially some of the teachers who feel their authority is being questioned. They begin to subtly resist the new policies. Marcus starts hearing complaints about how the new council is meddling too much, and how some staff members feel disrespected by the sudden shift in dynamics. It's clear that while many support the changes, there are those who view this movement as a threat. One morning, Marcus and his friends receive an anonymous letter slipped under the door of the student council room. It reads, "You may have won a battle, but you're losing the war. This school was fine before you stirred things up." Emma crumples the paper in her hand, her expression tight with anger. "Cowards," she mutters. "They won't even sign their names." Daniel shakes his head. "It's a sign that we're making an impact. If we weren't, they wouldn't be trying so hard to scare us." Marcus nods, but he feels the tension building. "We have to be careful. There are still people who want things to go back to the way they were, and they'll do anything to make that happen." The council decides to hold a town hall meeting, inviting students, parents, and faculty to openly discuss the changes and address concerns. It's a bold move, and there's nervous energy as they prepare for it. Emma stands at the podium, testing the microphone. "Are you ready for this, Marcus?" she asks with a grin, her eyes twinkling with excitement. Marcus takes a deep breath, feeling the weight of what's to come. "Ready as I'll ever be. Let's show them what we're really about." The gymnasium fills quickly, and there's a buzz in the air as students, parents, and teachers settle into their seats. Marcus, standing behind the podium, feels his hands clam up, but as he looks out into the crowd, he sees his mother smiling, Emma giving him a thumbs up, and his friends all nodding encouragingly. With their support, he begins. "Thank you all for being here today. We've made a lot of changes recently, and we know that change can be difficult. But this movement isn't about tearing down what's been built. It's about building something better together." The room is quiet as Marcus speaks. He shares the vision of the new council, creating a space where students and teachers work hand in hand, where everyone has a voice and feels valued. He explains how these changes are meant to strengthen the school, not divide it. His words flow, and he can feel the crowd responding. Some nod, others lean forward, genuinely listening. For the first time, it feels like there's a real possibility for unity. But then, As Marcus opens the floor for questions, a hand shoots up from the back. It's Mr. Russell, one of the more traditional teachers who has been vocal about his skepticism of the reforms. "Marcus," he begins, his voice echoing through the gym. "You talk about unity and change, but what about discipline and respect? I've been here for over 20 years, and this school has a legacy of excellence. Don't you think these reforms are just a way of undermining what we've built?" There's a murmur of agreement from some in the crowd, and Marcus feels the pressure intensify. He knows this moment is crucial. He takes a deep breath. "Mr. Russell, I respect the legacy you and the other teachers have built. We're not trying to erase that. What we're doing is making sure that legacy includes everyone. Every student, regardless of their background, feels they belong and have a chance to succeed." Mr. Russell crosses his arms, his expression stern. "And what happens when this experiment fails? Who's responsible then?" Before Marcus can respond, another voice chimes in from the crowd. It's Alex, the former student who returned to support Marcus's efforts. "Maybe the real question is why some people are so afraid of change. Marcus and his friends aren't asking for anything radical, just fairness and respect. Isn't that what education should be about?" The room falls silent. The tension is thick, but Alex's words hang in the air like a challenge, daring those resistant to change to rethink their stance. Slowly, some students start to clap, then more, and before long the entire room erupts into applause. Mr. Russell looks around, visibly taken aback by the support for Marcus and his team. Emma grins and whispers to Marcus, "Looks like we've got more allies than we thought." As the town hall concludes, Marcus feels a mix of relief and hope. The meeting was a success, but he knows it's only one step. The real challenge will be keeping the momentum going and proving that the council's vision can work in the long term. A few days later, the council receives unexpected news. A generous donation has been made to fund the new initiatives, including scholarships, mental health resources, and teacher training programs. The donation is anonymous, but Marcus and his friends are thrilled. They start planning how best to use the funds, excited by the possibilities. But then, the twist comes. Late one night, Marcus receives an email from a blocked address. The message reads, "You think you've won, but people with power don't give up that easily. Keep your eyes open." The words send a chill down Marcus's spine. He shows the email to his friends the next day, and they all share a worried look. "It's a warning," Daniel says. "Someone isn't happy with how things are going." Emma frowns. "And they've got money to back them up. We need to find out who's behind this." The next few weeks are filled with investigation and a sense of urgency. Emma, being her usual tech-savvy self, tries to trace the email. Priya and Daniel start asking around, digging into the school's history and connections. Marcus feels the pressure mounting, but he remains focused. They've come too far to back down now. One day, Emma calls the group together, her face serious. "I found something," she says, her fingers tapping rapidly on her laptop. The donation came from a shell company, one that's been linked to some of the school's biggest donors. It looks like they've been funding the resistance to the reforms too. Marcus feels his heart sink. "So they're playing both sides?" Emma nods. "They're trying to maintain control. If the reforms succeed, they win by claiming they supported them. If they fail, they can blame it on us and say they tried to help. It's a calculated move, one designed to undermine the council's efforts no matter the outcome." Marcus feels the weight of it all bearing down, but he also feels a new surge of determination. "Then we have to be smarter. We have to make these changes so successful that no one can deny them." The group doubles down on their efforts. They launch new programs, organizing peer mentorship groups, community events, and support networks for both students and teachers. The school begins to transform, slowly but undeniably. Marcus and his friends work tirelessly, and though there are setbacks, each success feels like a step closer to proving that their vision is not only possible, but sustainable. As winter turns to spring, the atmosphere at Eastview Academy becomes one of excitement and anticipation. The changes are visible. Students who once felt isolated now participate with enthusiasm. Teachers who were skeptical start engaging more positively, and even Mr. Russell begins to see the value of the council's work. During a staff-student basketball game, Marcus catches him smiling, a rare sight, and he takes it as a small but significant victory. One afternoon, as the council meets to plan their next event, a school festival to celebrate the achievements of the past year, Alex walks in with an envelope. "I found this in my locker," they say, their voice tinged with uncertainty. Marcus opens the envelope cautiously. Inside is a single photograph of the group during one of their meetings, and underneath it, a note. "We're always watching." The air grows cold. Marcus feels a mix of fear and anger. They're trying to scare us again. Priya crosses her arms. "But why now? We've already made so much progress." Emma looks at the photo, her eyes narrowing. "Because they know we're succeeding. This is their last attempt to intimidate us." Marcus stands, his eyes blazing with determination. "We're not backing down. Let them watch. We've got nothing to hide." The council agrees, and they continue their work, knowing that every step forward is a victory against those who want to keep them in fear. They refuse to be intimidated, and the success of their programs only solidifies their resolve. The school festival arrives, and it's a huge success. Students, teachers, and parents come together in celebration. It's a sign that change is not only possible, but welcomed. As Marcus looks around at the smiling faces, the laughter, and the unity he helped build, he feels a sense of accomplishment unlike any he's ever known. The shadows of resistance may still loom, but for now, the light of their efforts shines brightly. The battle isn't over, but Marcus knows one thing for sure: they are winning, and no threat or shadowy force can take away what they've built together. The school festival comes to an end, and the sun begins to dip below the horizon, casting a warm, golden light over the grounds of Eastview Academy. Laughter and music fill the air as students and teachers mingle, sharing in the joy of a celebration that represents everything they've fought for: a united community, a place where everyone feels they belong. Marcus stands off to the side, watching as his friends laugh and dance with the younger students. He takes a deep breath, feeling the cool evening breeze on his face, and for a moment, he allows himself to savor the victory. It's not just about the success of the festival or the changes they've managed to implement. It's about seeing the school transformed into a space where every voice is heard. Emma walks up, nudging him playfully. "Hey, dreamer, what's on your mind?" Marcus smiles, his eyes reflecting the lights strung up around the field. "Just thinking about how far we've come. It's almost hard to believe." She nods, her eyes softening. "Yeah, it's amazing, but you know, there's still work to do." Marcus laughs, feeling the weight of those words. "Isn't there always?" As the night deepens, Marcus's phone buzzes in his pocket. He pulls it out, expecting another message of support, but when he opens it, his expression shifts. Emma notices and tilts her head, concerned. "What is it?" Marcus shows her the screen. It's another anonymous message. This time it reads, "Enjoy your moment. We're still watching." For a second, a shadow passes over his face. The threat lingers in the air, a reminder that not everyone is happy with the progress they've made, and there are still forces at play trying to maintain control. But then, Marcus looks up at the festival, at the joy, the unity, the friendships they've built. He knows that whatever comes next, they've already won something invaluable. He turns to Emma, his expression one of quiet determination. "Let them watch. We'll keep building. We'll keep fighting." Emma grins, always. As the night fades and the festival lights twinkle like stars above them, Marcus feels a deep sense of peace. The future remains uncertain, and he knows challenges still lie ahead. But he also knows that he's not alone, and that's enough to face whatever comes. He looks back at his friends, at the students who have become his allies, and at the school that's become a symbol of resilience and hope. Together, they've started something powerful, something that will continue to grow beyond him. And as long as they stand together, no threat, no shadow can truly take that away. The story of Eastview Academy is far from over. It's a story of beginnings, of a movement that's only just finding its strength. And as Marcus gazes into the night sky, he knows that whatever comes next, they are ready. For now, he lets himself enjoy this moment of peace, knowing that even if the journey is unfinished, they are exactly where they need to be, united, resilient, and hopeful.